Hello and welcome to another video or episode, depending on whether you are watching or listening to this. So, today I wanted to talk about a behavior management concept or theory that I've been bouncing around a bit over the past 2 weeks. And then quite recently I listened to the Forest School podcast, and Lewis there was talking about the idea of being triggered by certain plays, that to kind of paraphrase and summarize, that sometimes when you are looking at a play or a certain behavior, you think it will lead to something else, and because of your past trauma or past experiences, you shut it down. And so kind of tying this all together, the concept, and also based on the behaviors I see sometimes with parents in sessions, because I get to observe that, because I have the parents, the homemade families that I work with, the parents stay for the sessions, so I get to kind of observe different parenting strategies and different behaviors within that. As has led me to the concept that I think I've used to a certain extent for a number of years now, without really putting the theory into words. And I think, the theory is that you only get a certain number of no's a day, or don'ts, depending on how you look at it. So in our interactions with children, I think we can all agree that we want to, in general, to have positive interactions with the children around and the people around us. There's the concept that I talked about a while back of the emotional bank account. Are you paying in occasionally, or are you only withdrawing? If all of the interactions you have with a person are negative, then you are withdrawing. If the interactions are positive, then you're adding. Now, neither of which is particularly good. If you're only adding in all the time, then you may well be withdrawing from your own bank account to make those deposits. And if you end up bankrupt as part of that, then that's no good either. And there are behaviors we need to control for the safety of the people involved. But at its core, you only get a certain number per day. Because what happens if you are kind of person who, or if you spend your time during the day saying, no, you can't do that. Let's throw an arbitrary number out there. If your interactions with a certain child verge on 30 to 40 no, don't do that type of conversations in a day, then you are either overtly punishing that child, or the words you have don't have consequences and weight. Because there will be times where you say, don't do that, and a child will, because that's kind of their job, to push those boundaries, to work out where you actually stand firm and what you actually care about. And the more no's and don'ts you say, the more likely they are need to do this, to work out, okay, does no mean no, or does no mean maybe? Does no mean if I do it often enough, they'll stop caring? The child, most often or not, is trying to work that out, trying to go, okay, is this a proper no, or is it not? Now, if all of your no's are a firm no, then you're either going to be in a good position if you use few of them, or you're going to be in a position where every interaction is negative if you use a lot of them. Does that make sense? Hope that makes sense. So the way to look at it is to go, okay, what behavior is really important that I nip in the bud, that I step in and say is unacceptable, and what behavior is okay, and what behavior really doesn't have an impact. For example, don't run around on the grass to forest school. That, I'd say, if not, doesn't really have a consequence. Now, obviously, if your field is covered in sharpened stakes, then yeah, that's different. But in general, the consequences of jumping in a puddle, if everyone's wearing waterproofs and wellies and stuff, it's not much of a consequence. So don't waste your don'ts on that. Don't waste your no there. Now, if you are teaching a child how to use a knife, and one of the rules is don't cut towards yourself, then you want to use your nose there. You want to say, don't do that, and you want to have some expectation that that's going to be a hard no from them. That's going to be something that they are going to take seriously. So sometimes this means letting little things that irritate or frustrate you slide, because it's looking at the big picture. You can come back to those later, but you've got to go, okay, which behaviors are actively dangerous and problematic and need to be dealt with, and which ones can we redirect? Can we use a soft no? Can we look at behavior in a different way? Can we just say, okay, I understand this behavior, going back to that original prompt from the Forest School podcast, is that original behavior triggering me for a reason? Is it just because I don't want this particular behavior because it doesn't make me feel right? Or am I actually have a valid safety or social concern here? And you've got to be careful how you use those no's, particularly with children in the school system. Now, I understand where all of this comes from. And I experienced it myself when I was working in schools as a trainee teacher. It's crowd control. Working inside a classroom, any behavior that starts to step outside of the box can have quite disastrous consequences, magnified by 30 times in a small room with one or two adults. You've got to step in early, soon, and you've got to manage the behavior constantly. And that's because there's equipment that can be damaged, there's other children that will be part of the consequences there. If someone, say, throws a stapler across the room, you've got to be careful. Whereas out in the woods, for those in the video, you can see there's a big open space here. Child running around in circles, screaming at the top of their lungs, isn't a problem out here. There's no one to disturb. Nearest houses are half a mile over that way. That behavior doesn't need to be managed. Now, you might want to at some point if all the other things are dealt with, but if you know later on that they're going to be holding a sharpened stick or stake or whatever that they made during forest school, and you want to manage that behavior, then maybe save those no's for them. So I hope that kind of makes sense, and I hope that's helpful to you in kind of working through behavior management. Let me know if you agree or disagree with this. This is a theory. This is something that I've developed over time working with kids, and it's just all about trying to be that 1% better and understanding ourselves and understanding our reactions to the children we're with. With that, I'm going to say thank you so much for watching and listening. Remember to make the most of every day, and I'll catch you all next time.